Consciousness filters back, not in a rush, but as a slow, creeping tide reclaiming the shores of your mind. There is a familiar, almost oppressive weight to the air in the room, a density you've come to associate with wakefulness. A deliberate scan of your immediate surroundings confirms that all is precisely as it should be, every object occupying its designated space in the quiet tableau of your life. The ceramic mug of cooling tea sits on the desk, a silent companion. Your own fingers, extensions of your will, rest expectantly on the keyboard. The soft, luminous glow of the monitor paints your face in pale light. And yet, despite this overwhelming evidence of normalcy, an undeniable and pervasive wrongness persists. It is a subtle dissonance, a sensation that lingers just beyond the defined edges of your perception, akin to a change in atmospheric pressure that you feel deep in your bones but cannot logically place. It's the intrusive feeling of a fundamental hiccup in the laws of physics, the profoundly unnerving realization that you have suddenly become lucid within a dream you were utterly convinced was your waking life. This peculiar phenomenon has been given many names. For the methodical minds of scientists, it is simply déjà vu, a momentary neurological misfire. For the searching inquiries of philosophers, it is a visible crack in the grand illusion of reality. Perhaps, in some strange way, they are both correct. Perhaps the world you perceive with such certainty is not a fabrication at all, but rather, something far more ephemeral, an echo. The final, resonating echo of an event that has, in truth, already concluded. One particularly startling hypothesis posits that the life you believe you are leading at this very moment is nothing more than the final, fading signal of a consciousness in the slow, inexorable process of its own dissolution. According to this unsettling idea, the definitive point of death is not marked by the mechanical cessation of a heartbeat, but by the profound moment your mind finally relinquishes its struggle to exist. Until that ultimate surrender occurs, your brain, the architect of your reality, constructs a world, a final, self-contained world. It meticulously weaves one last, coherent story, a reality built from the sum of your experiences. It is a world built for a single inhabitant to perish within. That inhabitant is you. We are culturally conditioned to believe that death is an instant, a singular, clean event represented by a flat line on a monitor, a last, quiet exhalation, and then an all-encompassing silence. But the intricate machinery of biology is far less cinematic. After the heart gives its final pump, the blood does not simply vanish or become inert, precious oxygen remains trapped within the system, and individual cells, unaware of the system-wide failure, continue their desperate fight for survival. And the brain? The brain, the seat of consciousness, fights with the greatest ferocity of all. In some recorded instances, for several minutes following what we clinically define as death, discernible and complex brain activity not only persists but surges. These are not the mere random, chaotic firings of dying neurons. They are powerful, coordinated bursts of electrical energy. Certain scientists have labeled this phenomenon the final storm, interpreting it as the brain's last, desperate and systematic effort to re-establish order from chaos. An alternative view suggests it is a massive, uncontrolled release of endogenous neurotransmitters, creating a profound and involuntary psychedelic experience. But a third, more radical possibility exists. What if this final surge is not an act of collapse, but one of intense, focused creation? The brain, now completely untethered from the linear constraints of time and the physical limitations of space, starts to build its final environment. It undertakes this task not in a random or passive way, but by deploying every last resource it possesses to manifest a full, rich, and utterly convincing experience. A complete world. Potentially, an entire, detailed life. The dying mind could be narrating its own last, epic tale, and you, at this very moment, might be the protagonist living, breathing, and feeling inside of it. You. Our most comforting and fundamental assumption is that reality is an objective, external entity, a grand stage that proceeds on its own immutable course, entirely indifferent to our fleeting presence or eventual absence. We naturally see ourselves as travelers, temporary passengers gazing out at the vast, unfolding cosmos through the small, subjective windows of our conscious minds. However, a collection of challenging theories proposes the exact opposite of this comfortable worldview. What if the universe is not something you passively witness from the inside, but something your consciousness actively and continuously generates from the outside in? This is the core of biocentrism, a deeply controversial concept, deceptively simple in its premise, yet absolutely staggering in its implications. It puts forth the radical notion that space and time are not fundamental, independent aspects of reality. Instead, they are sophisticated perceptual tools, the very grammar and syntax with which your mind writes the story of the universe. From this paradigm-shifting perspective, you are not some insignificant spectator lost in the immensity of the cosmos. You are the sole projector. Every single person you meet, every leaf on every tree, the boundless blue of the sky, and the impossibly distant stars, all of it exists only because you, the observer, are there to perceive it. Should you cease your observation, the cosmic performance would immediately halt. Should you cease to exist, reality itself would fold and dissolve. This compelling idea extends beyond the realm of mere philosophical musing. It finds unsettling echoes in the bizarre and counterintuitive mechanics of quantum particles. These fundamental building blocks of all matter do not seem to settle into a single, definite state or location until they are actively observed. It is as if reality, on its most microscopic and foundational level, patiently waits for our attention before it commits to being one thing or another. So, what, then, is the ultimate consequence when the observer finally dies? Does their entire, personally projected universe simply blink out of existence along with them? Or is the alternative even more unsettling to contemplate? Does the mind, psychologically incapable of accepting its own complete annihilation, frantically construct a new, seamless reality to take refuge in? A final, self-sustaining world that feels entirely real for the simple, desperate reason that it absolutely must. Our very existence is meticulously framed and governed by the relentless, methodical ticking of the clock. We are born into a world bound by the cold logic of birthdays, defined by the oppressive weight of project deadlines, and marked by the slow, inevitable weathering of our own physical bodies. We have invented countless timepieces to quantify this inexorable progression, and we have collectively agreed to call that measurement real. But the fundamental laws of physics, as we currently understand them, present a profoundly different and more fluid picture. Albert Einstein himself once remarked that the seemingly rigid distinction between past, present, and future is nothing more than a stubbornly persistent illusion. Time, it turns out, is astonishingly malleable. It can be bent, stretched, and dramatically dilated under the right conditions. For two different observers, the river of time can flow at vastly different rates, its pace contingent entirely on their relative velocity and the gravitational forces acting upon them. In the microgravity of orbit, an astronaut's clock runs infinitesimally slower. Their personal process of aging is momentarily, almost imperceptibly, deferred. This confirms that there is no single, universal now that applies to everyone, everywhere. Expanding on this, certain physicists theorize that the past and the future are not gone or yet to come, but are already laid out, existing simultaneously, frozen within the block of spacetime like individual, unread pages in a colossal book. You are not actually traveling forward through time, your conscious perception is simply moving across this static, pre-existing landscape, illuminating one moment at a time. Given this bewildering reality, what becomes of your perception of time when your brain enters its chaotic final stage? If a fleeting, single-second experienced within a dream can contain what feels subjectively like a lifetime of intricate memories and complex events, imagine what a mere 5 seconds of intense, disorganized neural chaos could potentially construct. A world, a life, a perpetual, inescapable loop. The mind, it seems, has no intrinsic need for objective, clock-measured time. It requires only the convincing illusion of its passage. And crafting powerful, all-encompassing illusions is precisely what the human brain does best. It is entirely possible that you are currently navigating what feels like a complete, detailed narrative arc, with a past and a future, all contained within the explosive singularity of a single moment that has, in objective reality, already passed. There are those individuals who journey to the very brink of oblivion and, against all odds, return. They experience the stark finality of clinical death, no discernible pulse, no mechanical respiration, no detectable brainwaves on the EEG. And yet, upon their miraculous revival, they recount the most extraordinary things. They see, feel, and sometimes even know things that should be impossible. Their collected accounts often speak of being drawn down tunnels or vortexes filled with brilliant, welcoming light, of experiencing a dispassionate and strangely peaceful out-of-body vantage point, floating calmly above their own lifeless bodies. They describe overwhelming sensations of absolute peace, or paralyzing terror, or a complete dissolution of time itself. These are known collectively as near-death experiences, or NDEs, and they have been documented with remarkable consistency by millions of people across all cultures. While the individual narratives are unique, they frequently contain a set of shared, recurring motifs, a profound feeling of detachment from the physical self, a serene and heightened state of awareness, a rapid-fire, panoramic review of one's entire life, and often a distinct message, either heard as a voice or felt as a deep intuition, communicating that it is not yet their time to cross over. Mainstream science scrambles to offer rational explanations for these deeply mysterious phenomena, citing possibilities like cerebral hypoxia, random electrical misfires in the temporal lobe, or a flood of naturally occurring psychedelic compounds released by the dying brain. Yet these explanations, while plausible for some aspects, fall conspicuously short of accounting for the most perplexing cases. This is because some of these individuals return to consciousness with verifiable information they could not possibly have acquired through normal sensory means. They can accurately describe the specific medical instruments being used on them, the precise, verbatim conversations happening among the medical staff in the room, or even a trivial detail like the unique color of a nurse's shoelaces, all of which were observed while they were certifiably, clinically dead. So, what is the true nature of this experience? Is this the immortal soul making its temporary escape from the mortal shell, or is it the mortal mind engaged in its ultimate, most powerful act of creation? Or could it be another, even stranger process altogether? Perhaps these experiences are not glimpses of a spiritual afterlife, be it paradise or inferno, but are instead leaks, momentary tears in the fabric of reality that offer a view into the underlying machinery of existence itself. Perhaps in the throes of death, the mind develops a fissure, and through that sudden crack, something ancient and timeless seeps through. Or perhaps, and this is the most unsettling thought of all, this life, right now, is that very fissure, and you have been inside it all along. Perhaps you have, in fact, never truly awoken from the dream. Perhaps you are the dream itself. The austere philosophy of solipsism proposes an existentially terrifying reality, that you are the singular conscious being in existence, and that every other person and every physical object you encounter is nothing more than an intricate, detailed fabrication of your own mind. In this scenario, there are no true friends to comfort you, no real strangers to encounter, no independent world to explore. There are only your own multifaceted reflections, playing their parts in a drama of your own unconscious making. Your mind already proves its profound capability for this kind of world building every single night during your dreams. It effortlessly simulates detailed, complex characters with their own apparent motivations and histories, it generates distinct and recognizable voices, and it constructs entire, sprawling landscapes, all without any external help, all within the span of mere moments. Now, try to truly imagine your dying brain, with all its power unleashed from biological constraints, performing the very same feat with absolute finality. Others have taken this concept of a constructed reality to a different, more technological level. Simulation theory posits that you are living within a hyper-realistic digital system, a computational construct so flawlessly rendered that you cannot possibly perceive its inherent artifice. But what if the simulation is not technological? What if it is entirely biological? A deeply personal simulation built by the very neurons that constitute you. In this version, there is no external supercomputer, no hidden, godlike programmer, there are only your own neurons firing their last, magnificent volley of signals, generating a final, self-contained version of reality that is meticulously designed to never truly end. And within certain Buddhist concepts of the death loop, an even more peculiar and haunting notion arises. When a consciousness is unable or unwilling to detach from its worldly attachments, it is forced to recycle itself, becoming inescapably ensnared in its own karmic illusion. It is thereby condemned to helplessly relive the same cherished memories, interact with the same beloved people, and experience the same searing tragedies and fleeting hopes, over and over again. It becomes a closed loop with no visible door unless, somehow, you can find the will to stop believing that any of it is real. So, after all this, where does this torrent of speculation leave you? For the sake of this thought experiment, let us operate under the radical assumption that the core of this hypothesis is true. You have, in fact, already died, and this entire, rich experience is nothing but the last, slowly decaying echo of your mind as it fades into oblivion. If this is the absolute truth, then logically, absolutely none of this should matter. The victories, the losses, the love, the sorrow, all should be rendered meaningless. And yet, it profoundly, undeniably does matter. Because you can feel it. You can feel the breathtaking rush of joy, the gut-wrenching agony of pain, the persistent, hollow ache of longing, and the electrifying spark of wonder. Whether this reality is authentic or illusory, the subjective quality of the experience resonates through every fiber of your being. This suggests that the pertinent question is not "Am I already dead?" but rather, a far more immediate one: am I truly paying attention? Because regardless of whether this is life or death, an intricate dream or a stark illusion, your awareness, your unease, stubbornly persists. And for as long as you are here, for as long as the light of your consciousness continues to burn, a choice remains. You can choose to exist as a passive recipient of these sensations, a mere character drifting through a script you don't know you're in. Or you can choose to live with deliberate, focused intention. To question everything, to feel deeply, to strive for a state of lucidity, even while trapped inside the dream. The fact that you are still here, still processing these words, might indicate that your deepest fear is not of the approaching oblivion. Perhaps, instead, what you are truly afraid of is the moment you finally, truly wake up.